We are Darren and Sharon Goche, and we are from the Chicago Church. And it is pronounced Goche. I know you see it on your thing, you go, that's not who they are. But it's G-A-U-T-H-I-E-R. The correct French pronunciation is Gautier. I'm not French. I'm from South Louisiana, and we take French and we tear it up. So that's why it's pronounced Goche. My wife tried to change it to the correct pronunciation one time, and my family almost lost their minds. So, as we are here teaching with Jim and Donna Blau, who we can't wait to hear their lesson. We honestly can't wait. And they're here with their awesome son, Joel. Joel is hanging out with us. And we've actually had a copy of their notes for a couple of weeks, their outline, and we still can't wait to hear them teach it. So I believe wholeheartedly that as they teach, you will be ministered to, you will have needs met, and they will be able to touch things, I think, that we all battle as parents in our situation. One of the reasons we're part of this presentation is because we have a son that's ADHD. He was diagnosed right before first grade, and my wife will share a little bit more about that. But the other reason that we're a part of this class is because of that young lady sitting in the middle there in a wheelchair. And that is actually my family growing up. That is circa 1979/80. We were styling back then. My collar was designed by McDonnell Douglas. And my sister Alicia is her name. When she was born, a doctor said she would not live 48 hours. And she was born with cerebral palsy and severely intellectually disabled. And she is now 51 years old.
Wow.
And one of the games we play, we have a couple people here in our ministry, and they've seen this picture because it sits in our living room where the hundreds of people come in for counseling and then to counsel us when we're falling apart. But we asked them to pick which one is me. Now your choices, I'll be real quick, your choices are top right, bottom right, your left, your right, and then bottom left. Those are your three choices. Anybody top right?
Bottom right.
All right, anybody bottom right? Okay, anybody bottom left? It is top right, actually. Yeah, I actually had more hair at 18 than I do at 55. And my wife said I actually look very gangster in that picture. She said she would have been scared of me and not attracted to me. But those are my parents. They're now divorced. But my mom, who is now a disciple, is remarried to a great brother who I actually used to disciple, which was weird in the beginning. But growing up with a special needs sister, and just for the record, she is absolutely spoiled rotten, being the baby of the family. But growing up with a special needs sister, it was a lot of challenges. I was the oldest, I was the big brother. And that's a picture of her at her birthday about 2 years ago. And she actually is very happy. She loves her life. She thinks her brother has lost his hair, and she's not happy about that. But literally, she spent the entire time doing this to my hair. And there's a lot of things I had to deal with. There was some shameful things of embarrassment. My friends would come over to hang out, and I was kind of embarrassed. I'd meet them at the door and tell them, hey, just wait outside, I'll be right there. And that, as I was younger, that was our MO, my MO. My two other brothers just seemed to be very disengaged with the whole situation. But eventually, it swung the other way. or I would shun all my friends so I could just hang out with my sister. We became really, really close. We actually look a lot alike. And we became really close. And the acceptance of our situation was difficult because my parents didn't really know what to do. It was tough for them. I mean, they loved my sister, but they really, my dad especially, did not know how to handle what he was dealing with. And there was not a lot of help back then in figuring it out. She and I became very close, and Leash is what we call her. She always surprises me with new things she learns. She actually lives in an assisted home, which is in Lake Charles, Louisiana, which is just 3 hours from where my mom and stepdad live in New Orleans. But when we call the talk, she's always got this new thing. And this time, when we called, she wanted to talk about what she was eating. And so I asked her, well, what are you eating? She shared, and she said, what are you eating? I said, well, I'm cooking right now. She said, what are you cooking? So I said what I was cooking. She said, oh, you can't cook like my mama. You can't cook like mama. And she would not stop saying it. And so but what it does is it brings a joy, it makes us laugh. We called her on her birthday, which is June 6th. She literally laughed uncontrollably for 20 minutes. We just finally said, I'll call you later. There was zero conversation. She laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. It is so infectious. My wife and I and our 2 kids were rolling on the floor laughing, because that's all she did was laugh. But that's the other reason, I think, that we're part of this class. I began working at children's homes while I was in college for abandoned, abused, and neglected kids, and I actually got certified in that while I was in college. That became my profession. And though I was a business management major, I became certified in this. And I remember talking to my mom and said, Mom, I can't believe this is what I do for a living. And she said, oh, Darren, when I watched you with your sister, I knew you would wind up doing something like this. And I didn't see it coming, but she did. There is a special love that we have for our kids, isn't there?
That's right.
Our kids in our situation. And it sometimes is a challenge, but it is a rewarding challenge. My wife's going to share a little bit about our son.
Just want to share quickly. As Darren said, our son Carson has been diagnosed with ADHD, and this is, I mean, you have a child and you have all these dreams and you think, oh, you see this beautiful little kid, but as a young child, he always had just a lot of impulse control issues. And at one point when he was in preschool, he got kicked out of preschool. That's when we started realizing that things were going on. But he wasn't really even kicked out. It was actually all the parents got together and had a meeting that we didn't know about. And they all went to the director of the school and they said, either you get this kid out of the school or we're going to pull our kids out of the school. So, so Carson ended up being the one who left. And I think we can all relate to, or a lot of us can relate to these things where you go to school and you see all the little kids are filing out and they're going to maybe a birthday party after school, and then Carson is the only one who's coming home because he wasn't invited to the party. So it was just a lot of things like that we went through it. And at the time we're thinking, we must be the most terrible parents in the world. What is wrong with us? And I remember so many nights just literally praying and wishing that I would maybe just pass away in my sleep, because I thought if I were out of in my mind I thought if I were out of the picture, then his life would be better, he'd be happy, Darren would remarry and have this great mother for Carson, and everything would be good. That was my thinking. I really felt like I was the problem, but we ended up getting a lot of help. He was diagnosed with ADHD, and that was really, it was just a great thing to be able to sort of put a name on what his issue was. And honestly, with medication, he's functioned pretty well. This summer I read a book called, The Gift of ADD, and it was really great because I think so many times I could look at what was going on with my son and think, oh, it's all bad. But it really helped me to see that there's so many, I mean, look at that face, you know what I'm saying? It's like, anyway, there are so many good things about it. But I'm just so grateful and humbled to be here and a part of this class this morning. And when I look around the room, I mean, some of you I know, some of you I don't know, but most of you I don't know, but I just see heroes. I don't know your individual stories, of course, but I know that you're heroes. You're heroes of faith. You're heroes of perseverance. You're heroes of endurance. And you might hear the word hero and think, I don't want to be a hero. I just want things to be, simple. But you didn't choose to be a hero. You didn't choose this path. You didn't anticipate this path. You didn't dream of it, or even maybe desire it. But God has allowed us to be in this path, and we can really. He's going to use us. And I also want to acknowledge that everyone in this room represents a uniquely individual soul in a uniquely different situation. We don't profess to be able to relate or no. I mean, your situation is your situation. It's individual. And I think once your child is diagnosed with a special need, it immediately puts you in a unique category. And I think we can kind of see ourselves as, okay, I'm unique. But unfortunately, as a result, walls can go up. And we can feel very isolated, and we can feel like there's no one who really, really understands. And we just ask you today in the class, just to, maybe this is a great time to sort of let those walls come down a little and really embrace the relationships that we can have, because we can't have that support. Double click. But I just wanted, it might go 2 times, but I just wanted to share really super quickly about some of the families in our ministry. This is the Townsville family, and that's William and Kelda and their daughters Faith and Joy. And this is Sheila Divis. She's a sister who is just very close, because a part of what can help us get over the isolation is just having relationships and having people who love our children. I know in our ministry there's a Carol Baskin has been just a part of our family. She was one of the babysitters early on, because we had disciples who would refuse to babysit our son, and she was one who actually liked our son. So we just grabbed onto her. We didn't let her go. Like, okay, you're going to be a part of our family. So we all have
You're going to be married with us.
So we all have that. And finally, I just wanted to show real quick another support that we can have, or the support of in Chicago. We have a day at the youth camp where special needs children who aren't able to stay for the whole camp, preteens, young teens, can come and just be a part of the. There are a couple of things going on. So that's what we have. But I really want to hear the blouse. So let me sit down and we'll.
Yes, give me Jim and Donna Blau.
Because God has taken us like all over creation, literally. Jim and I are both Midwesterners. I'm from Kansas City, and Jim is from Cincinnati, and we actually met here in St. Louis and got married. So it's been really fun to go around and see places that we used to live that aren't there anymore because they tore them down. And, but we had our beginning here, and just a little fun fact, Jim's first disciplers were Ryan Howard and Max Lucado. And so that's pretty cool. We got married in 1980, and then in 1981 we moved to Boston. I was pregnant with our first child, our oldest, Jesse, and he was born in 1982. Jim went to MIT, and so we were a part of the Boston church, and we're from Boston now. In 1983, Joel was born, and he was born in Boston. And so we lived there, we went into the ministry, and we decided that we wanted to be missionaries, so we planted the church in Bombay, India. And Joel was 2, and our older son Jesse was 4. So we went, everything was fine then, but a few months after we moved to India, Joel started having seizures. But we didn't know that because they were Pet-a-ball seizures. And so we had never seen that, we didn't know what that meant. But his behavior really changed. He went from this sweet, happy-go-lucky child that just smiled and laughed all the time to this real terror where he had temper tantrums that were just major outbursts and just all kinds of things. And we thought it was my parenting. Of course, it was me. At least I thought it was me. And so we had no idea until about 9 months later he had about 10 or about 15 or 20 seizures in one day. And they were just 10-second staring spells. Yeah, that's right. And so we brought him back to Boston, had him diagnosed with epilepsy, and that was kind of his major diagnosis for about 15 years. So what we did in India, he was in an Indian school, but we had to take him out of school because the teacher said, oh yeah, Joel doesn't pay attention, we just let him look out the window. And so we're like, okay, he's not learning anything in the Indian schools. And he was this little blonde-headed, blue-eyed kid, so they really loved it because all of the Indian kids had black hair and brown eyes. And so Joel was a real novelty. So we started our own school. We brought a couple sisters over from the U.S. and rented a flat, and Jim's mom was with us, and she was a retired school teacher, so she taught us academic school work, and then we had a behavioral specialist for special needs, and then someone who worked with his fine and gross motor skills, so we were able to stay there for 2 more years. So we stayed in India for 3 years, and then we moved to London. And we were in London for 4 years and worked with the church there, and was a part of the ministry. And while we were there, we found a hospital that was a residential hospital that Joel went into. He was 6 when he left our home. And went into this residential hospital. He was there from Sunday night to Friday. And it was in Oxford, England, so we drove an hour from London to pick him up and bring him home for the weekend and then take him back Sunday night. So they told us he'd be there for 4 to 6 weeks. He was there for 6 months. Well, they diagnosed his behavioral needs, his medical needs, his educational needs, and they diagnosed us as well. But it was really great for us because we found that, it was good in one sense because our marriage was really shaky, and we spent no time with our older son because we were always trying to protect Joel. He was hyper, still only had the diagnosis of epilepsy. And so at the end of 6 months, they discharged him with a recommendation of residential placement. So we found a residential school that was 2 hours away in Birmingham, England. And at 7, he moved to this school in England. So, it's kind of interesting because I think God really felt like our marriage needed to be worked on because we had individual time together, 2 hours one way. And, we had a lot of fighting that we did. You may have found that in your own marriage. And so we were kind of captive audiences. Didn't have anywhere to go. All we could do is look out the window like this. And Jim would look straight ahead if we were fighting. And if we weren't fighting, I'd fall asleep. So we did that for 1.5 years. And then we moved in '93 to the Northern Virginia area, DC area. And so then we brought Joel back from England, and he was placed in a residential school in Pennsylvania, the Philadelphia area. And so that was on a good day, 3 hours one way. So we had more time to work through our marriage issues. So Joel was there for 11 years. So we had a lot of time to work through things. And it was there that Joel received a diagnosis of autism. And he has explosive behavior disorder, and I forget all that they told us that he has, but so he was there, and then he was there for 11 years, and then we moved him to a school in Maryland, the Chesapeake Bay area, where they had great vocational teaching. And so he was there for 2 years and was able to graduate at 22, and that was in 2006. And then we moved to the Boston area, moved back to Boston, where Massachusetts has great funding and great programs for special needs adults. So in 2006 we moved to Boston, and Joel lived at home for a year and a half. That was a real transition for us. He was still very explosive in his personality and all. And so after about a year and a half, funding came through for him to go into residential. So we found a group home for him for special needs adults that was less than a mile from our house, which was really awesome. You know, time doesn't permit me to tell you all the great things that God has done for us and amazing things that He has done for us. I think Jim's going to share about that, but I just wanted to give you a little foundation and just let you know where we're coming from. So now Jim's going to go.
All right, sorry we didn't come up and stand together, but you know how it is when you have your special one with you, right? Stay close. So I really appreciate Darren and Sharon. We got to know them a little bit through the European Mission Society. We kind of worked together, and they're a great couple, a lot of fun, and I love their spirit. And I think they really sort of exemplify the heart that we all really want to have with our special children. An open heart, a giving heart. You know, I think many times, you know, that the wife, the mom, is the one who hurts the most. And I really want to lift up Donna and Sharon, because you really have to be tough. You have to be tender, but you have to be tough, right, when you have a special one. And so what are we not going to do in this class? We're not going to solve all your problems. Actually, I think our problems don't really need to be solved. They're not problems that need to be solved. We just need to grow and be the best we can. The Bible tells us that God never lets us be tempted beyond what we can bear. And so every one of you has been chosen for a special ministry, and He believes you can do it, and you can, and you are doing it. So we're not here to fix anything. We're not here to compare or like whose situation is harder or whatever. You know, one of the things I learned is, you know, you hurt for your kids based on how much you love them, not based on how bad the cut is. Right? So a broken arm, you don't hurt more than a cut finger. You hurt because you love them. That's the magnitude of the pain. We all love our kids. It's not about what we deal with. It's not a competition. The one thing that will happen today is probably in your situation, like Sharon said, you may be unique. You may be like the one person. Everybody's like, oh yeah, you know, the blouse, you know. Well, not here. You just like fit right in. Okay. So welcome. And I think it's really important that those of us that have exceptional children, that we feel like we're part of something bigger than just our own little world, kind of like Sharon said. So we are really glad you're here. As Darren said, we had to get up early because we have our morning autistic rituals. You know, there's that scripture, do not move the ancient boundary stone. You know, that's like our life, right? So, you know, amen. So we got up at 6. Joel did great. Here we are. And but thanks so much for coming. It's just wonderful to have you. So, you know, the theme of the conference is reach. Reach in, reach up, reach out. And that's really a great sort of outline for what we're going to talk about here in the next few minutes. And I tapped. It's going to change. There you go. Wow. So, you know, when I think of reach in, I think one of the things we all really need to do as parents of exceptional children is we really have to reach into our own heart. There are a lot of emotions to face on this journey, and the church said, amen. Sadness, fear, denial, worry, frustration. You know, I think as disciples, sometimes we can feel like emotions are wrong. Like emotions are the problem. You know, in Proverbs 25:20, the writer says, like one who takes away a garment on a cold day, or like vinegar poured on soda, is one who sings songs to a heavy heart. You know, God values emotions. Emotions are important. They're not the end all, but they're also not to be squelched or disregarded. And I think probably a lot of us have felt like our emotions have been tested more through this journey than any other time in our lives. I remember shortly after we moved back to Boston, we bought an old house. Every house in New England is old, okay? So we bought a 100-year-old house, and we needed to get some work done. And so my plan was, put Joel in bed, and then I was going to sneak downstairs, and I was going to work on the house. So the first, I get him in bed, he's like, you know, breathing, walk downstairs. Dad, what are you doing? So, you know, we tried this 3 or 4 times. Finally, I put him in bed, I went up, I put my covers over my head. I was like, I'm a prisoner in my own life. And I'm sure some of you have felt that way. Just simple thing. How am I going to do that? I can't. We all deal with with those things. Donna's biggest struggle, I think, as a mom, this is common, was sadness. Those feelings of loss. And you know, it's okay to grieve. It's really sad. And people won't understand. And I think, you know, as disciples, we're great. We're like, hey, how are you? What can I, you know, but you don't want to like be a downer all the time. It takes too long to explain. So like, what do you say? Great, not great. I don't know. Go away. When Joel was at the Park Hospital, the residential hospital, you know, one of the things they said is, Donna, you look sad. And that was a great medical diagnosis right there. You know, one of the things that was helpful for us, Pat Gempo, many of you know Bob and Pat, Pat said, you know, this is a really hard situation. And I found that to be encouraging because I go, oh, good. So it's okay then that I'm not just like sailing through my life. Thank you. One of our good friends, Cecil Wooten, one time said, boy, it's good to see you laugh. I thought, amen. It feels good to laugh. Donna got really good at video games when Joel went into residential care at age 7. Because what do you do when you can't sleep? Night after night. And that's a hobby that continues up until the present. But we'll talk about that. But I think, you know, if I'm going to, this class is entitled Reaching the Special Children. We need to reach our children. And that doesn't mean they get baptized necessarily, but that means we connect and we meet the needs and we stay open-hearted. And if we're going to reach our children, the first thing we need to do is reach into our own heart and identify what's there and be honest. And not close up, and not run away, and not shut down, but persevere. So then we reach in. So then we reach up. Well, obviously we know what that means. We have to reach for God. And I don't have a lot of complex animated graphics here, as you can tell, because I have Joel. So there you go. But you know, when I say reach for God, what do I mean? Actually, I think we have to deal with our lack of faith and our lack of trust. And our fear. That's really what it comes down to when, you know, when we're in this journey together. Surrender is really key, and it's an ongoing process. I was surrendered yesterday, but I got to do it all over again today because it's a new day, and it doesn't look like yesterday. You know, in John chapter 9, verse 1, it says, as Jesus went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciple asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus, but this happened so that the work of God might be displayed in his life. It wasn't about healing the guy. It was about God's power being revealed. You know, and I think probably a lot of us have asked the question, you know, why, or why me, or how did this happen, or am I at fault, or would somebody else be a better mom, or, you know, whatever. But having a special child is a unique journey of surrender and acceptance. You know, we've all probably, regardless of what circumstances you deal with, you know, we've all had this experience where we try to change it, and it doesn't change. And we pray about it, and we do everything we can think of, and eventually we have to go, okay. Yesterday morning, we came down, we're in the elevator, we got down to the lobby, and Joel's like, oh, I forgot my dime. And so, you know, you try, Joel, it's okay, we'll get it later, I got a dime, you know, and well, guess what we did? We went back up and got the dime. And guess what that meant? It meant we got wet. But that's okay. Because having a special child is a unique journey of surrender and acceptance. And that's okay. You know, we learned that we can't control our children. And for anybody that has, you know, kids with any sort of obsessive compulsive behaviors or whatever, we understand that. And really, it's not about them anyway. It's really about God working on us. And we learn to trust God that he knows what he's doing with our family. 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9, God said to Paul, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. You know, we need to have an eternal perspective. We live in a world where parents are judged by how many advanced degrees their children get, by how much they earn, by how financially independent they are, by worldly success. You know, Randy Jordan, who was the CEO of Hope for many years, he told me one time, his son Rob was like, "Dad, I think I want to be a social worker." And Randy's like, "Well, Rob, you know, think about that." Rob's like, "Dad, I want to be a lawyer." Randy's like, "Oh, that's great, Rob." And he thought, "Wait, what am I saying?" You know, and Rob is a social worker. Got a master's in social work, and he's fabulous. But we need to have an eternal perspective. Whatever glorifies God and helps us get to heaven is good. And the church said, Amen. Whatever keeps me from relying on myself is good. It's good. Many of us will make it to heaven because we're special children. Because we can't do it ourselves. And it's God's grace in your life to be on this journey. James 1, verse 2, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. Perseverance must finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." This is a high calling. This is a high calling. Consider it pure joy when you face trials. But, you know, when I think about our experience, you know, I'm from the Midwest. I was born in Cleveland. I grew up in Cincinnati. I'm a corn-fed, you know, I'm about as vanilla a person as they come, you know. No, whatever. Sorry. But Joel is probably the coolest thing about my life. Like, you know, his group home, they just went through the certification process. And one of the things that people said is, we think Joel needs more socialization. Because a lot of his housemates are like in their 50s and 60s, and if you're in your 50s and 60s, you don't like to do a lot, you like to sit down and fall asleep early, and you know, Joel's young and energetic. His group home manager said, "I took Joel to the airport the other day to pick up his parents, and Joel knew someone, he saw someone in the parking lot that he knew at the airport." Joel doesn't need more socialization. We go to the bank. Everybody knows Joel. They call me like Mr. Joel. They don't even know my name. We have one of our obsessions is money. We have to like pair up our money and get Eagle quarters and state quarters and nickels instead of dimes. So where do we go? We go to the grocery store because they have time. Right? So we go to the information. This is probably the most important thing you're going to learn. Go to the grocery store information counter to do money obsessions because they have time and they're very kind. So write that down, share that. So we go in, they're like, "So what do you guys need? Need some quarters, dimes, you know, how's it going?" That's like our little family over there. And you know, I asked one of the girls one time, I said, like, when you see us coming, do you guys like run for the exits? She said, "No, actually, everybody's like, oh, can I go to the counter? I want to go to the counter." So you know, God wants to make your life shine. It may not be the way that you wanted it to shine through your kid getting a doctorate from Harvard or something. But maybe it's the way God wants it to shine. So God is going to make your life special. And the last thing that is really significant, I think, is that when Jesus became human, he became a special needs child to God. That before he became human, he had no limitations.
Wow.
After he became human, he was disabled.
Wow.
And you know, people laughed at him. They didn't understand him. They made fun of him. He didn't fit.
Wow.
So God knows what we are going through. And it hasn't happened in your life accidentally. It's not like he said, "Oh, oops, sorry, I messed up." He's like, "No, I want you to understand me, maybe even better than like the normal people do." So we need to reach up, we need to reach for God on this journey. And it'll be more awesome than you ever could have imagined. Okay, on to number 3 in my pathetic slides. We need to reach for the church. You know, it's not about the slides, amen? They made us have slides. I wasn't going to have any slides. They're like, "You got to have slides." Okay, I'll make slides. I didn't even make my... Sharon made my slides. I didn't even make my slides. Okay. All right, enough on that. Sorry. So, reach in, reach up, reach out. Where do we reach out? We need to reach for the church. You know, people in the church, we are so blessed. I was talking to Christine, I think. Is that your name?
Yes.
Yes. And we were talking about how we really have a secret weapon in the church because it's such a great environment. Now, I'm not saying your church is perfect at meeting the needs of your child. Mine isn't. But we have good-hearted, kind, loving, caring people around us. You know, I don't know how people who aren't part of the church, I don't know how they do it. I think they do what Sharon said. They just wall themselves off because they can't trust anybody. You know, but people want to support us, but they need to be trained. You know, Jesus, remember in Matthew 26, when he was praying all night before the crucifixion, he took Peter, James, and John along because he wanted some help. And what did they do? They all fell asleep. They wanted to help. They didn't really know how to help, you know, but I think it's really important that we believe that our friends want to help. You know, we have Paul and Beth Westbrook, our best friends from Virginia, from however many years that was. Donna remembers how many years. But they're here because we knew we might need a little help. And they know us, they know Joel. They actually volunteered at one point if we need like a guardian or whatever, take care of Joel like for the rest of his life. Wow. And they know what that means. And you know, they're uniquely prepared because Beth is like a special ed teacher, you know, and so so people want to help, but they need to be trained. You know, Job's friends, they wanted to help, their hearts were right, but they weren't helping. Have you ever had somebody really try to help and say something that wasn't helpful? Like, he looks fine. He looks great. He looks fine. Okay. You know, so we have a secret weapon, right? Because we have the church, but we need to reach for the church. The church is not going to reach, they're going to kind of reach for us, but they don't know what to do. It's like the first time you hold a baby, you know, and they're like, where's the handle? So they're like, when we first moved to Boston, we were at an outdoor service, and we had a public meltdown. Those are fun. We all had those. And brother came over, and Donna was like, he's like, okay, want to go off? You know? And we found out later, this man, he's a deacon, he's really respected, he's a medical doctor. And Donna was like, oh, I got to go apologize to Milton. So she apologized. She said, Donna, no, I need to be trained. I need to know how to help. Thanks for the guidance. You know, and I think people, they want to know that they need help. When Joel was at the Park Hospital in the UK, there was one of the things they did, Donna said they diagnosed us. They put us in a room with like a two-way mirror, and they had like 6 doctors watching us. It was our whole family, me, Donna, Jesse, and Joel, and 2 cameras, and they're like, play together for 1 hour. Wow. And of course, what they're looking at to see if like, we're the problem. Right? I mean, have you ever been to a professional and their first thing is, you're the problem, right? So, so we're like, okay. so we played, you know, and whatever. And, you know, by the end, after 6 months, they said, you know, we have come to the conclusion that you guys have some special power or something. And we said, oh, we do. It's the church. Because there's another family that was there while Joel was there, same situation, 2 boys, and they actually separated and they got divorced while our kids were in the hospital together. And so it was like, what a contrast. You know, but it continues until this day. Like Joel, for the last year, has not been able to sleep because he was excited about coming to this conference. And he goes up to bed, he gets up, and he's like, am I going to see Alan Roscoe at the conference? We're like, I don't know, Joel, maybe, probably. Yeah. Go to bed. Okay. You know, he's singing while he comes down. You know, am I going to see Paul and Beth Westbrook and Brian and Lauren Westbrook and Ryan Westbrook's babies and Jack Frederick and, you know, this family we're a part of. You know, our kids, that can be their world. Not only that, but for those that are able to be part of their world, like your adopted person that's going to be buried with you in the adjacent plot, it'll change their life too. To know one of our kids intimately may be one of the most significant things that can happen in the life of a disciple. So we need to reach for the church. And sometimes people say and do hurtful things, but we got to resist the temptation to withdraw and close ourselves off. One other thing I would say is, we all have our limitations. We need to figure out a way to have fellowship that works within our limitations. When we first moved to Boston, we had Joel living at home with us. We went to church, kind of left, because we didn't do well in the fellowship at first. And so what we did is on Sunday night, we said, we'd like to invite you to come over to our house. And we'd pick a family, and they'd come over. We'd say, we're going to sit outside, and we might call us from the street in front of the house, just so we can give you the thumbs up. Because it might be like an aircraft landing, you might have to come back another time later. And so, people would come and they'd say, is it okay? We're like, yeah, it's okay, come on. And so we figured out a way for people to come and interact with us that worked. And I want to encourage all of us, just because it's hard, just because you don't want to make people jump through hoops, don't hold back from that. Your family needs it, and there are people in your church that will benefit from those connections. So we need to reach for the church. Okay, got a little bit off of my outline there, but we're ending at 10. Is that right? Okay, good. So good. So next point: reach for the professionals. We are really blessed in this country to have so many great supports. When Joel was first diagnosed, as Donna said, we lived in India. We're looking for a pediatric neurologist. We couldn't find one, because they all live in America or England, all the great Indian doctors in the world. Right? A lot of us probably go to some of them. And, but God cares about our children. And I want to talk a little bit about professionals, because, we can go, there are two ditches along every road, right? We can go into the ditch of professionals don't know anything, I'm just going to rely on God. That's a ditch. We can also go into the ditch of professionals know everything, and I'm just going to do whatever they say, and everything else is secondary. Neither one of those is the right path. We need to make our own decisions. We need to have our eyes open. We need to be disciples first. But it's interesting. In Exodus 9, God raised up Pharaoh. Exodus 9:16. God raised up Pharaoh to benefit the nation of Israel. God uses professionals and people of influence to help his people. And so I think it's important that we not look at professionals as the enemy. There's this thing in the special ed world, there's like the advocacy movement. Like, you need to advocate, and you need to challenge those bad school teachers, and you need to complain and pitch a fit. And I'm not saying there aren't times where you have to take a stand. But these are good people. These are people that God has put in your life to help you. And so it's important that we kind of see this as part of God's mercy to us, and not just as a worldly system that we need to create a fuss to maybe get something that we want. You understand what I'm saying? I said that a little more strongly than I intended to, but I think we all understand what I'm saying, right? Let me show you how much God wants to give you the right professionals for your family. So we're in India. We're trying to find a pediatric neurologist. We can't find one. And then we hear, Mass General Hospital is opening a new hospital in Mumbai. Fabulous. When's it going to open? We don't know. The building's right there. No doctors or anything. So then, one day Donna goes by, and we heard about this doctor, Bernie D'Souza. He was the head of pediatric neurology at Duke University Medical Center. So this is a guy, it'd take you like a year to get an appointment to see this guy, right, in America? So Donna goes in one day, she's like, I'm looking for Dr. D'Souza. He's like, I'm Bernie. She's like, okay, sorry, where's your secretary? He said, I have no secretary, I have no desk, I have no phone. Why are you here? She's like, well, I have a son, we live here. He said, sit down. They sat and talked for, how long did you talk to Dr. D'Souza? 2 hours. So then she's, can I bring my husband back? He's like, yeah, sure. So we went back the next day. 2 hours. He treated it, we never paid him a penny. He got us into Johns Hopkins for evaluation. And 6 weeks after we left, he died of a heart attack. I'm not kidding you. And so, God wants to surround your family with the right professionals that are going to help you. And so it's important that professionals are not the solution. but they're a part of the team. You know, we had another time when shortly after we moved to Boston, we were having some real behavioral outbursts. And we saw it coming. We talked to Joel's caseworker and said, what do we do if he gets, physically out of control? They said, call 911.
What?
I'm like, that's the answer? Like, what if he bites a policeman? And they're like, no, they're trained. They know what to do. So sure enough, the next Saturday, we call 911. So first a woman came, and then she realized it was the nature of it. So she called the California Highway Patrol guy with the mirror shades and, the Darren Gautier. And so we had talked to Joel because we kind of saw this coming. And we said, Joel, we need a team. We need a team. We need people to help us. We need a team. That's a good way to talk about it with our children. And so, they come in, and he's like, what are they doing here? And I said, well, it's the team. The team is here. And it was fabulous. They were gentle. And the EMTs came, and we're standing there at the end. And Donna said to the EMT, said, you want to say something, don't you? Because the guy started to talk. And he said, God bless you. God bless you people. You really love your child. And so you never know when somebody is going to really say what needs to be said or do what needs to be done to provide that support. Even if it's a sunglasses wearing, bald-headed. And so I think just, we need to reach for the professionals. Sometimes the professionals are harsh. Sometimes they're wrong. Our attitude has always been, doesn't hurt to try it. Yeah. We went to a woman in India. She had a master's degree from America, and she said, he's just a spoiled American kid. That's the problem. So you know what we did? We said, okay, we'll try that diagnosis. So after 45 minutes of physical discipline, we thought, she's wrong. It's not that simple. So sometimes they're harsh, sometimes they're wrong, but God wants to use professionals to help us. And I think it's important for us to try to create a spirit of teamwork and partnership with those people, because they will really help you. And Christine said that she's got a real great advocate, right? I mean, we feel more secure when we have a great team. And sometimes something happens, one of the doctors changes insurance or whatever, like, oh, but then you sort of get the team, and then you're like, yes, the team is back together. It's kind of like the NBA, but anyway, that's another lesson. All right, good. Awesome slides, but this is number 5. Reach for my spouse. Donna talked about this some, I won't dwell on this, but having a special child tests your relationship. When we first were thinking about Joel having to go into residential care, my way of dealing with stuff is I talk about it. That's kind of a male quality, I think. Men figure out what they're thinking by talking. And so they're like, what do you think? I think this. And then they go, no, that's not what I think. Keep talking. I think that. No, that's not what I think. Oh, yeah, that's what I think. And so wives just be patient or do something else, while he's figuring it out. So we went to visit our families, and I was telling our relatives we think we might have to put Joel in a residential school. And what was I doing? I was trying to get used to the idea myself by talking to others about it. So Donna was like, she was dying. Joel was 7. And so at one point she said, you just want to get Joel out of the house and you can do what you want and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't respond. I wasn't mad because I knew she was dying. We were both dying, And I said, you can accuse me of a lot of things, but you can't accuse me of that. I'm just trying to get over the hurdle. And she said, oh, good, me too. But we need to have those conversations and control our emotions and trust our partner. We need to be more united as parents with special kids. As Donna said, our relationship really thrived from riding in the car. It was funny, Joel would kind of enjoy it, like if we had an argument, it was like watching a tennis match. Even now sometimes, one of his things that he likes to do, he'll say, what would you do if the conference center burned down? What would you do if the conference center was closed on the day that the conference was, and then when the conference was over, it was open? All the people that were staying in the hotels, the hotel doors got locked, and then they couldn't get out until the conference was over, you know, and it's like... And, Phil's playing the game on Don's tablet, so he knows what I'm talking about. But, you know, we realized that's fun for him. And, you know, we need to find ways to laugh. And one of the things that we did is, because, you know, you can get strong sometimes with your special child. You're like, you're not going to do that. And they don't even hear you. Right? They're in their whatever, their ritual or whatever their situation is. And so we came up with this word that really worked well for us. It was foofage. And what it is it's kind of it's like, are you being silly? Joel, are you a foofage? Yeah, foofage. You know? And it was a way of like taking the heat out of the situation. You know, and just kind of let's just laugh and, you know, he'll say, well, what would you do if this? And Don will go, well, what would you do if that? You know, and there's some people that are really good at, they can even sort of beat Joel at the what would you do if game, you know. But, you know, I think special families, there's this temptation to kind of close in around that special child. And I think openness with your spouse, humor, these are the things that kind of can open that back up. And so we need to reach for one another. If you're a single parent, you need to not just say, this is my thing, I'm going to deal with it, you know. You got to have other people that are in there with you, you know. You got to have somebody to reach to that's like a spouse. It might be a parent. It might be a sibling. Even if they're not a disciple, you know, you just need another person to share the load. Okay, so, great. My last awesome slide. Point number 6, reach for the future. You know, Matthew 6:33, not worry about your life, what you will eat, your body, what you will wear. God knows everything that you need. And we all tend to worry about the future. Have you noticed that? With our typical children, we worry about the future. We just worry about the future. It's just human nature. That's why it's in the Bible. It's God's grace to reveal our journey one step at a time. You know, the Romans 11:33, it says the difference between God and us is that we live our lives a step at a time. God sees the whole thing. And I'm really glad I live my life a step at a time. Because I think if somebody told me 30 years ago about my journey, I would go, I'm not your guy. I'd be like Darren, and I'd be out of there. But it's amazing what we can do a step at a time. I mean, I think all of us, all of you could stand up here and tell your story, and every one of you, people would go, how'd you do that? And, you know, I don't know, just kept going. Held on to God. Reached for the church. You know, and this is our journey. But, you know, and there are, like tomorrow in the workshop, there's one family that they had some challenges and they got resolved and their challenges are gone. You know, and it's easy for us to maybe feel like, oh, I wish that was me. You know, I didn't get one of those. Well, first of all, I'm really happy for them. Amen. You know, I'm not going to begrudge anybody any outcome in their life, right? But, you know, your issues getting resolved is not the only positive outcome in your life. You know, and I think we look at our life now, like I said, the coolest thing, people are like, well, why'd you bring Joel to the conference? You know, you like can't really talk to anybody. I'm like, so what? I don't care. Joel's the coolest thing in my life, you know. And I think when you think about the future, you know, when we lived in Virginia 10 years ago, Joel would not come to church. I mean, he would come, but he wouldn't talk. People would try to talk to us, and he'd go, you know, don't talk to my parents. And it was, now, we sit in the car. First of all, we have to get there 30 minutes early because we don't want to miss anything. And so we're sitting in the car. Joel's rocking in the car, and I'm like, Joel, are you... He doesn't say I'm excited, he says I'm exciting. Which is actually probably more grammatically correct anyway. And I go, what are you exciting about? He goes, fellowshipping. And there's a woman in our region who's a physician's assistant, and she can't come to midweeks, and she got her schedule changed. And she came to midweek, and Joel was there. He doesn't always come to midweek, but she said he was the only person who came up to her and said, "Why are you here?" She said, "I felt like somebody noticed me." If a spouse is missing, Joel will say, "Where's your wife? Where's your husband?" Here's Jack Frederick, Joel's adopted big brother. They're going to go for a little spin. But, I don't know. I mean, Joel's pretty smart. Is he going to invent something someday? I don't know. But he's changed my life. And he's brought a lot of joy to a lot of people. And I think if we can persevere and reach for the future with our children, you just will be so surprised at what the future is going to hold for you and your family. So I think I'm going to wrap it up here. You guys want to do a little closeout, I think. But you are heroes. I know none of us wants to be, but you are anyway tough. So thank you very much.
I always wonder what those guys tell each other when somebody comes off from preaching. And I told them, I said, I haven't cried in a lesson in a long time. And I cried 3 times. And people in my ministry who are here know I don't do that. But this is the soft spot in my life. This for most of us. This is the spot that when you hit it, it hits you deeper than any other place. And Jim and Donna, I want to thank you guys so much. Absolutely, for everything you shared. We had heard a little bit about their story when we spent some time together a few weeks ago, but hearing everything and hearing your convictions, what got you through it, thank you guys so much. We're really grateful to you for that. So the one thing I marked that I want you to remember as you go out today, because we're at a conference, many of us brought our kids with us. Remember this, disciples mean well when they say stupid things. Does that make sense? I've said really dumb stuff to people. Honestly, and I'll give you an example and I'll send you out. One is, someone will tell you that they had a parent that passed away. And you may ask the question, I used to and I don't anymore. I used to say, how old were they? And they would say 89. I'd go, oh. It doesn't matter if they were 89. You lost your parent. But that's me trying to be encouraging, trying to help, and doing the exact opposite of what I was trying to do. The disciples are going to do that. We do that to each other in many different ways, many different times. So guys, God loves us. That's why He chose us. Let's continue to enjoy our conference. Thanks for coming, guys. Thank you very much.